The Sabaody Arc is one of the most unassuming and surprising arcs up to this point. It starts off a little bit slow, but by the end of it, you just can't believe what you're witnessing, and that's exactly my experience with this arc. So let's take it from the beginning. This episode was a reminder of why I love One Piece so much, specifically the Straw Hats and their dynamic and what they represent for the show. Them getting to the Red Line, which is halfway to the Grand Line, and just reminiscing about when they first got to the Grand Line, and at the end of the day, the Straw Hats are just a group of friends that met under weird circumstances that are chasing their dreams, and I love that. I've never felt such a sense of being immersed into a story. I feel like I know these people, like I really do. Like I know these characters, and I feel like I'm on this grand adventure with them where, again, they're chasing their dreams, and it's beautiful to watch. It really is. Because the characters are so well written, and because Eiichiro Oda really took his time in developing these characters that we're going on this journey with, the connection I have with them is beyond any other series I think I've ever watched. So I'm starting the Sabaody Arc in One Piece for the first time. Let me know what you think of the arc without any spoilers, please. But initial thoughts, it seems quite interesting. We got a mermaid, we got a returning character as in Hachi, who we haven't seen since Arlong Park. It's going to be interesting to see where he's at nowadays, and a villain that seems quite terrifying. I can't tell if that's Captain Morgan or maybe his long lost brother, I don't know, or maybe it's a new guy entirely, but Duval seems pretty intimidating. The villains just keep getting bigger, man, I swear. I'm just excited to start a new arc. As much as I love Thriller Bark, and I really did, it's always fun going to a new island with the Straw Hats and discovering all the new characters and environments and lore and all that sort of stuff, so this should be interesting. I mean, if the mermaid and her pet talking starfish that's also her master isn't an indication of what's to come, of it potentially being quite different and weird, I don't know what is, but I'm down for that. I like weird. Knowing One Piece, it will probably have me crying about this starfish by the end of it, but we'll see. I'm glad Hachi's back in the picture. I gotta say, during Arlong Park, he was one of my favourite characters, especially out of Arlong's gang, so I'm glad to see him back in this sort of different capacity, sort of see what he's really like outside of that terribleness in Arlong Park. It's always fun when we get to see old characters or old villains especially get reintroduced with whole new circumstances and just see what they're really like, because like I said, Eiichiro Oda is always great with his character development and his characters in general, so I'm sure he'll take it to an interesting place and I'll get emotionally attached to Hachi, which I didn't see coming. I'm also very interested to learn more about Duval. He seems quite interesting, especially as though he's had some sort of history with one of the Straw Hats. I don't know if we've met him before, but it could be Luffy, Sanji, Zoro, it could be anybody, so that's always exciting. As always, one of the best aspects of One Piece to me are the villains, so whenever there's a new big bad, I get excited about it. I already love the dynamic that Brook brings to the Straw Hats. The Straw Hats in general are quite cartoonish and over the top. That's just the nature of One Piece, but Brook is like the ultimate version of that. Like, he's so over the top and he's so cartoonish. It's like he's from a different universe, but he still makes sense in the world of One Piece. Like, just the way he moves, the way he talks, he's great, man. He's so funny. I also like the fact that seemingly he's like a bard. He played music in this episode and put his enemies to sleep, so maybe he has some other sorts of powers with the music that he plays that we don't actually know about yet, so that could be quite interesting going forward. And the introduction to Duval completely threw me off guard. Him just looking like Sanji's poster, and that's why he has a grudge against him, because I guess the government are after him now because he looks just like the wanted poster. I didn't expect that at all, but it genuinely made me laugh. I can understand why he's so pissed now, because he was probably just minding his business and now he has the government on his ass, and yeah, it's not ideal, but that was genuinely funny. This must be one of the quickest ass whoopings we've seen in One Piece so far. Duval was only introduced a couple episodes ago, and part of me is thinking he's probably not the big bad guy of the Sabaody arc, or at least there's a lot more to it, because yeah, this dude just got destroyed already, and he was never really a threat to begin with, it turns out. I mean, Sanji beat the absolute brakes off of this, man. I kind of felt bad for him, to be honest, because I understand why he's upset. It's not really his fault he looks like the wanted poster, but, you know, he was a piece of shit beforehand anyway, so fuck him. But I feel like Duval was just the start, you know. If he's not the big bad guy of Sabaody, or he's not the main villain, like, who is? There's going to be something else, I'm sure, that's going to come. Something that doesn't get talked about enough when it comes to One Piece, and doesn't get the credit I feel like it deserves, is the complete uniqueness and incredible diversity when it comes to the islands, the locations, and the landscapes themselves of the world of One Piece, because no one island looks the same as the other. Right now I'm on the Sabaody arc, and that's an absolutely beautiful landscape. The archipelago is just amazing looking, but it looks completely different to Water 7, which obviously looks completely different to Alabasta, which looks completely different to Skypiea. My point is, they're all amazing and unique, and they all look fantastic, and every time the Straw Hats get to a new island, I just love it because the locations are always so interesting and unique, and they always have interesting history and lore behind them. It's incredible, man. Like, the world building in One Piece is praised a lot, but I don't think like the actual landscapes themselves are praised enough, because they are fantastic. In this episode, we got introduced to the Celestial Dragons, who just seem like the biggest pieces of shit going. They're descendants from the creators of the world government from 800 years ago, so that goes to explain why they're so power hungry and such pieces of shit. I mean, the fact that they wear these bubble helmets just so they don't have to breathe the same air as the other peasants, I mean, that goes to say a lot about them as well. But that whole thing with the slave and him wanting to go back to see his family and him desperately trying to escape was genuinely heartbreaking. Like, what a way to introduce a villain and make you hate them basically instantly. I've always said One Piece is the absolute best at making a really detestable villain, and these guys seem like the new detestable villains. For a place as beautiful as Sabaody, the archipelago is one of my favourite places visually. These people seem like terrible, terrible people. And you could tell how badly Luffy wanted to get out there and just beat the fuck out of all of them, but he had to restrain. Things just got really interesting and really exciting on the Sabaody Arc. There are 9 other pirates here with bounties over 100 million besides Zoro and Luffy, and holy shit, that's going to be carnage. I love the way that Shaki put it, to where it's almost like a tournament of survival, that all these pirates have come all the way through the Grand Line, all taking different routes, and they've all ended up in the same place, and that's just really exciting to me. I feel like there's so much potential for all of these characters, not just because of their strength, but because of all the individual journeys they've gone through. I'm sure they all have very interesting stories or powers or something that they're going to introduce into the story that I can't wait to see. And to make things even more interesting, Shaki saying her husband is 100 times stronger than Luffy. Like, I don't know if she's exaggerating or she's just bigging up her fella, I don't know, but either way, holy shit. So the Celestial Dragons are even worse than I thought, especially this snotty-nosed kid who was obviously born into extreme privilege, extreme power, and he uses it to be a disgusting piece of shit. And I feel like this is most likely just scratching the surface of how terrible these people truly are. I would have loved to have seen Zoro cut this man down right then and there, but I'm sort of glad Zoro was saved, because I can only imagine the repercussions to doing that to a Celestial Dragon would have been insane. The amount of power that these people must have to have these pirates with hundreds of millions berries of bounties bowing down to them, not even wanting to like look in their direction. I mean, that says a lot. They must feel absolutely untouchable, and they pretty much are, to be honest, but this is the way that you introduce an absolutely hateable character. I already want to see all these guys get beaten the fuck up by the Straw Hats, and now they have a reason to, as Kamey's been kidnapped and assumingly sold off to the Celestial Dragon, so I'm hoping we get that confrontation very soon. In this episode, we have met somebody that is apparently 100 times stronger than Luffy. His name is Rayleigh, and he's the right-hand man of Goldie Roger. Holy shit. I thought when Shaki said to Luffy that her husband was strong, that maybe she was exaggerating a little bit, but now we know the context and who he really is. I'm not surprised if he really is 100 times stronger than Luffy or more. This has made me really excited for 2 things. One, learning about Rayleigh in general. What's he like? What does he do? What's his power like? And also potentially learning more about the history of Goldie Roger, the king of the pirates. The life and history of Goldie Roger and his crew is something I'm really, really excited to learn more about. Fire Fist Ace is going to be publicly executed. What the fuck? In the middle of the Sabaody Arc, during this terrible human trafficking thing, which is completely fucked up, by the way. This crazy news about Ace has been announced, and Whitebeard is going to lose his shit. It's going to start a war. This is going to be crazy. I can only imagine how Luffy's going to react when he hears the news. Jesus Christ. I need to know what happened in the aftermath of that Blackbeard and Fire Fist Ace fight. This could change absolutely everything in the world, and it probably will. The Sabaody arc just keeps getting better and better, and might be one of the darkest arcs that I think we've seen in One Piece so far. Absolute madness. This episode is a great example of exactly why I love Luffy and why he is the best leader for the Straw Hats possible. Him punching Charlos in his stupid fucking face at the end of this episode was just the best thing ever. Was it a smart decision? Probably not. Not after everything he's been told and what the Celestial Dragons are potentially capable of. But Luffy doesn't always make the smartest decisions. He acts off impulse, and he does what he does because he wants to protect his friends, and that's the number one thing to him. It's his friends, it's his crew. That's all that matters to Luffy. I could watch that punch 1,000,000 times over. That will never get old to me. This dude, Rayleigh, is a very scary individual, and this episode proved it. I don't know what sort of power he possesses, but he was glancing at people and they were just dying or passing out or something. He was debilitating people just by fucking looking at them. I mean, of course, being Gold Roger's right-hand man, he's going to be strong, but Jesus Christ, I feel like we're only scratching the surface of this guy's abilities, potentially. The fact he had other pirates in that courthouse with millions of berries of bounties on their heads and they were sweating just looking at him says a lot. And interestingly enough, he knows about Monkey D. Luffy, so that is very interesting. I wonder if that's connected to Gold D. Roger somehow. The Sabaody arc is so good, man. It feels like every single episode something crazy happens, or we get a cool fight, we get an introduction to a new awesome character, a new plot reveal. Like, just it's constantly things are happening and it's amazing. And in this episode, we got Luffy, Captain Kidd and Law all fighting next to each other. The other two notorious pirates with bounties of over 200, 300 million, and yeah, it's crazy. Seeing Luffy fight by these guys kind of makes me a little bit proud in a way. Like, the kid has come very, very far from where we started. And these two seem like very interesting characters, especially Law. I'm absolutely buzzing to see what happens when this Navy Admiral arrives. The Sabaody Arc is absolutely crazy, man. The amount of things happening and how quickly they're happening as well is ridiculous. It feels like every single episode we either get introduced to a new insane character, a new plot point, just something crazy happens. And in this episode, holy shit, Kuma's arrived. After what this man did in Thriller Bark, I'm absolutely terrified of what this guy can do. I think if Zoro sees him, he might actually get PTSD. And the fact he's facing off against Captain Kidd and Trafalgar Law, who we've just seen are incredibly powerful too, I'm buzzing. The Sabaody Arc is just as hype as people were telling me it was. I absolutely love this episode of One Piece. After 400 episodes of One Piece, we finally get to learn a little bit more about Gold Roger, and not just learn about him, we get to hear about it from a man who was his right-hand man, Ray Lee. It somehow turned somebody that just seemed like a bit of a myth and a legend up to this point to a real person, somebody that actually went on these adventures and these journeys and did what he did. There's obviously still so much to learn about him, like why he did what he did. Did he really start this great pirate era on purpose? Either way, it's so great to learn more about him, and Ray Lee is awesome too. He obviously knows so much about the world through his travels with Gold Roger, but I love the fact that both Robin and Luffy refuse to learn more about the world because they want to discover it for themselves. I thought that was great. But I absolutely love this episode. The world and the history of One Piece just keeps getting more and more interesting. I love this show, man. The sheer amount of interesting and powerful characters that have been seen in the last few episodes is insane. And one of the most crazy and unassuming is Kizaru, an admiral from the Navy, and this dude's strength is ridiculous. Kizaru is so chill but so intimidating at the same time, and being able to kick at the speed of light, the amount of power he has behind those kicks is just silly. The Navy Admirals are clearly not to be fucked around with. There also seems to be more than one version of Kuma, which I'm just now processing, which is very, very scary. In this episode of One Piece, I feel absolutely terrible for Zoro. It's clear that he has some physical and mental damage that he took from fighting Kuma on Thriller Bark. It's the sort of thing I don't know if he'll ever get over. Like, that might be something that affects him for the rest of his life, pretty much. But a way for him to get over that potentially is defeating this version of Kuma. But the fact that there's more than one version, it seems like, is absolutely horrendous. Maybe there's a whole army of Kumas out there. Like, that would be absolutely terrifying. That would be Zoro's worst nightmare, I think. One Kuma was terrifying enough, but two? It's ridiculous. And Kizaru might genuinely be one of the coldest characters we've seen in One Piece so far. It feels like if he really wanted to, he could defeat everybody here pretty easily. The fact these two are essentially working together is terrifying. You can only assume these are like human weapons based on the original version of Kuma, which definitely is the one that fought Zoro in Thriller Bark. He's the only one that talks, he was the one with the paw print, he's clearly much, much stronger than these versions. But even so, having all of these Kuma clones going around is just not what you want. Tomorrow is definitely a big issue as well. He said to Luffy that it doesn't even have any powers, yet he managed to push Luffy back like that. Feels like there's a big shift going on right now with the powers in One Piece. Like, you don't necessarily need a devil fruit to be like one of the strongest, which gives me a lot of hope for Zoro and Sanji potentially in the future to get even stronger. For right now, these are a very scary group of people. I'm not exaggerating when I say this episode of One Piece might be one of the craziest episodes of anime I've ever seen in my life. The pacing of this episode was absolutely incredible. It was like every 2 seconds something insane was happening. Rayleigh literally flying in to save Zoro might be one of the coolest things I've ever seen. Kizaru is an absolutely terrifying individual, but seeing him fight Rayleigh is just hype as fuck. This is one of the most desperate situations we've ever seen the Straw Hats in. I've never seen Luffy say we need to run away because we're not strong enough to defeat these guys yet. If Luffy's saying that, you know it's true. And then the real Kuma with the Bible comes in at the end and makes Zoro disappear. What the fuck? I'm not kidding when I say every single minute of this episode was amazing. The Sabaody Arc might be goated, bro. The first time watching One Piece, I am genuinely absolutely speechless. I don't know what to say about this episode. I could have never predicted what Kuma was going to do in this episode. This was the absolute collapse of the Straw Hat Pirates, and Luffy's desperation in this episode absolutely killed me. Throughout all of One Piece, the Straw Hats have always been together. They've argued, they've disagreed with each other, but they've always been together in some capacity. For them to all be completely ripped apart like this without their choosing is just something I could have never expected. And Luffy having to witness his entire crew or his entire family get absolutely demolished while not being able to do anything was heartbreaking. This was so crazy, man. I'm never going to recover from this. Where the hell does One Piece go from here? Where do the Straw Hats go from here? It's going to take me a while to process that episode, man. Jesus Christ. This arc completely changed everything in One Piece, and I mean that sincerely, from the direction of where the Straw Hats were going to the show itself, to learning about Ace's execution, the Celestial Dragons, figuring out that the Straw Hats still have a very long way to go and they are nowhere near powerful enough to, you know, face the new world at the moment with people like Kizaru and Rayleigh and the Kumas and all that sort of stuff. It was just a complete game changer, and it was so unassuming as well. The arc started off with Duval, who's just the goofiest villain of all time, and then it ended up with absolute heartbreak, and it was just unbelievable, especially that episode where Kuma separated the Straw Hats and the bubbles were popping, and Luffy's heartbreaking reaction to losing his family, who up to this point had always been by his side. The second half of the Sabaody Arc was absolutely unbelievable. and the slow build up to it, you know, with the Celestial Dragons being absolutely terrible people. Luffy clocking that Celestial Dragon was amazing as well. The introduction to loads of new powerful pirates from the New World with really high bounties, Rayleigh, you know, like I said, Kizaru, just so much craziness happened in the second half of this arc. It was unbelievable, and it was the start of one of the greatest runs of anime that I've ever seen up to this point. You know, from here all the way through Marineford, this is where it all began to me, like that part, that run. And yeah, that I still remember that feeling when we first saw Kuma separate the Straw Hats, and the absolute heartbreak and how unbelievable that was to me that actually happened. And like I said, it was so unassuming, you just didn't expect it. And that's why, to me, Sabaody is one of the most surprisingly incredible arcs in One Piece, and it sincerely did change everything. The direction of the show completely pivoted after this, and I loved it. I thought it was so well executed, and yeah, amazing. So let me know what you guys thought of the Sabaody arc. And yeah, next time we're moving on to Amazon Lily. Thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you all in a bit. Peace.